recorded this video in January and I'm just now posting it. Happy last day of Fibroid Awareness Month.
Hello, hopesters. I hope you're doing well. I'm so glad to be making another video. Today I'm filming from Sidebar at my friend Darrell and Tracy's house. This is their little jazz lounge, and it's a whole vibe. Plants are everywhere. I'll show you guys a little bit at the end of the video. But today I want to share with you a little bit of my journey with fibroids. I may do another video that's a little bit more detailed at a later time, but for now, I just want to talk to you about my journey. So if you're not familiar with fibroids, they are tumors that can grow inside of your uterus, in or outside of your uterus. Most of the time, they're non-cancerous, but they can cause abdominal pain, heavy bleeding, and they can also lead to infertility. And so I found out that I had fibroids when I lived in Jacksonville, Florida. At the time, my health was not in a good place at all. And so when I found out about the fibroids and they talked about either having a myomectomy or a hysterectomy, I wasn't even in a place to consider having surgery. Unfortunately, from that doctor and many other doctors, they really try to push a hysterectomy, which is when they completely remove your uterus, which means you are no longer able to have children. And for me, being someone who's never had children, and that's a desire in my heart, that conversation was off the table. But like I said at the time, I just wasn't in a good place physically to even consider any type of surgery. So fast forward, maybe about 2 or 3 years later, I was in a better place with my health. And one of the primary issues I had with fibroids is that my stomach was protruded. And so when I was getting tired of constantly covering up my body or people asking me if I was pregnant. Side note, don't ask people that question, okay? Especially if you don't know them and you don't know what's going on with them. Keep it to yourself. So it was a really triggering question for me as someone who desires children and sometimes wonder, will I ever say yes to that question? So I saw a doctor here in North Carolina. By this time, she is the third doctor I've seen about the fibroids. And she basically told me she would have to do some more imaging, but the fibroids were pretty large. And after the imaging, they discovered that 2 of the largest ones were actually in the wall of my uterus, so in the muscle. And so in her professional opinion, she didn't see a way for me to be able to conceive in the future, and she didn't see a way to preserve my uterus. The way she described it is that if you cut open my uterus, she was like, she compared it to a pomegranate, like it was filled with fibroids. Needless to say, this was not news I was expecting, and really took me to a dark place of just sadness and hopelessness and despair. And it really became a time where I was just grieving, like, how do I process this news? It's nothing that anyone wants to hear. And I remember shortly after that, I started seeing a new therapist, talking about what was going on. And I really had to begin to make some declarations. First, I know God is able to turn things around. I know, as my shirt says, nothing is too hard. But it was a journey to get to that place. And I had to begin to make some affirmations and declare that I'm not defined by my uterus. I knew for me, I was not willing to get a hysterectomy. And so I was like, God, if you don't heal me, I have to just deal with this protruded stomach. And it may not sound like a big deal to you, but I was constantly hiding my body. I was always making sure that I didn't have anything fitted, that everything was flowy, so that no one would ask me if I was pregnant, so I wouldn't even appear pregnant. And so, and I didn't mention this, but basically my uterus was the size of someone who was 6 months pregnant. And here I am in my small, petite little body trying to hide that. And being tall and thin, if your stomach's protruding, people are going to assume that you're pregnant. So anyway, after going through therapy, really processing this news, really spending some time in prayer, I really sensed that the Lord was still encouraging me and assuring me that I would be a mother. And so what changed for me in that moment was I was just open to whatever my road to motherhood looked like. So if that means that I'm going to carry my children, if that means I'm going to adopt, if that means I'm going to become a stepmom, all I know is God told me that I was going to be a mom. And so I just had to take hold of that. And so about a year later from that, my last appointment, I felt like I was in a place where I was ready to seek another opinion. And I remember my therapist asking me, are you prepared to get the same news? Like, how would you respond, rather, if you got the same news? And I remember I was like, it would be sad, but I know that this is my body and I have a choice on whether I have a hysterectomy. So even if that's what's suggested, I don't have to do it. So I went to this doctor. One of the things that I chose to do was find a Black female doctor, because I know that fibroids disproportionately impact Black women. And so I wanted to see someone who understood my story, who understood me as a Black woman, and was not going to push their agenda on me. And so for my very first appointment, I told her a hysterectomy is not an option for me, so I don't want to talk about it. And so she said, okay. And she assured me that that was not my only option, that even though I had larger fibroids, that she had successfully performed a myomectomy. And so I'll share more details, but June of 2022, I had an open myomectomy, where it's basically very similar to a C-section, where they cut open my stomach, go in, remove those fibroids. Y'all, they removed 37 fibroids from my uterus. 37. Crazy. I was like, no wonder I looked like I was 6 months pregnant, or my uterus was that size. So yes, I'm here on the other side, and I'm here to encourage anyone. If you are dealing with fibroids, if you know someone who is dealing with fibroids, don't be afraid to get a first, second, third, maybe even like me, fourth opinion. And know that nothing is too hard. That's my shirt that I'm wearing today. I got this shirt from a company called Hers Garden that really created their company to address issues regarding infertility and to really just encourage people who are struggling in that area. But I saw this shirt and I saw some words that related to my story. It says lupus. It says uterine fibroids. It says medications. It says age, anxiety, grief. And I knew that this was a declarative statement that I could make, that I could encourage other people with, that nothing is too hard. So no matter where you are on your journey, God is able to do the impossible. For years, I just wanted God to heal me miraculously. I was like, Lord, I'm like the woman with the issue of blood. She touched the hem of your garment and she was healed. But God chose another path for me. But he's still the healer. And I'm so thankful today that I can stand before you saying that they were able to preserve my uterus when 3 doctors either told me a hysterectomy was my only option, or even if you do get a myomectomy, they're going to come back. Well, I choose not to believe that. I choose to believe the report of the Lord. And I'm still doing my best to take care of my body, to put the right things in my body that will fuel my health. But I want to encourage you that no matter what you're facing, nothing is too hard for the Lord. I'll see you in my next video, hosters. Bye.